and welcome to Rolling with Reviews. I'm Will, and with me as always is the micro masterpiece maker herself,
Sarah.
And today we're doing a review of Smitten. Sarah, tell us a bit about this game.
All right, Smitten is a cooperative micro game for 1 to 2 players with limited communication. Players must complete 2 3x3 grids to win, and the completed grids form a picture. If players are unable to legally place a card, they lose. So, Will, could you go over how the game plays?
So, as Sarah pointed out, you're forming 2 grids of 3x3 cards. That means you have 18 cards total. You'll start with that. You'll shuffle them up. You'll take 1 card out, so you can't count what is exactly in your deck. That last card will actually come in at the very end if you win.
Yes.
From there, in a 2-player game, you'll give each player 3 cards. And now you have limitations on what you can even say. You can say whether you can play or you can't play, or you'd want to play or you wouldn't like to play. You can also combine those together. So for example, I can't play, but I would like to play. That is perfectly safe to say because it mixes the various things that you can talk about. Okay. From there, you have limitations on how you can play. If it's a card going into a grid, and you can play in either grid, either player, it's perfectly fine to put any number anywhere.
At the very beginning.
At the very beginning. That's why it's an empty grid.
Oh, yes.
If a grid has cards in it already, in order to play in that grid, the number has to go orthogonally adjacent, up, down, left, or right. All the cards are organized in a number pattern. So starting in the upper left is the 1, then it goes 2, 3, below the 1 is the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you always know where the card belongs in the grid at any given time. From that point on, those are the rules that must be followed. If those aren't followed at any time, you lose. Now, moving on to the next complication. Each round has a leader and a follower. A leader will play the card and making sure it's a valid play, then trigger the ability on that numbered card. That ability then forces the follower to follow additional rules in order to play their card. Now, the follower will ignore the ability unless the first card ability tells them to do something with it. Otherwise, it's just the numbered card. And abilities could be anything like they must play in this grid or choose higher and lower. And whichever one you choose must be a number higher or lower than 5. Yeah. That was 5's ability. And if for whatever reason they can't play, you lose. Now you keep going back and forth with, after playing a round, everybody drawing back up to their full hand as much as you can. And once the 17th card gets put out there, you then completely ignore its ability and win. That's when you take that card you took out from the beginning, slot it into whatever slot was missing, and see your 2 identical pictures.
Yes. And then solo play works relatively similarly, except that they have 2 separate hands with some cards face up and some cards face down. So instead of limited communication, it's limited information. And we'll also have to note for both solo and 2-player, there are ways to make the game harder.
And easier.
Yes, and easier.
Yes.
Yep. All right. So let's talk about, just briefly, why we got this. And that was because we were ordering the Rolling Realms promos during the 10th anniversary sale. And this came along for free.
Yes.
So what do we like about the game?
It's a nifty little challenge in such a small package. There was a lot of thought that went behind every single rule and what number it is and where it fits into everything. So that was an interesting puzzle to tackle.
Yeah. Also like that it is short, it is small, so it's very portable and it's very easy to pull out, but it will also challenge you.
Yep.
What we don't like about the game is it's not very visually accessible. The grid in the upper left corner, which has the grid of where it places in the 3x3 and then the number over it, can get lost in the background. The grid is white, so it gets lost in the lighter colored backgrounds. The number is dark, so then that gets lost in the darker colored backgrounds. They didn't put a solid box behind it, which it either needed that or needed to be put into the text box, which the text box is great. It's white text on a dark green background, so it's perfectly readable. So if it had been moved down there or had its own background, it would have been perfect. But as it is, I think unfortunately a lot more people are going to have issues with that than just those who know that they have vision disabilities.
Yeah, my workaround was, okay, let me see all the cards. I just memorized the abilities, and then I knew what number they went with.
Yeah.
And from there, I could play it, completely ignoring the one thing that's supposed to help me with that.
Right. It's one thing that's supposed to help you reduce the information overload. You shouldn't have to know all 9 abilities to be the way you know where to place them.
Yeah, and sadly, when you get to the point where you're knowing what all 9 abilities are, no matter how much you change the game, I think the difficulty just kind of starts whittling down from there.
Also for us, limited communication is just terrible when you're playing with someone with vision disabilities, since talking is the main way we communicate, since he literally can't see the board. And so I'm always the one explaining and describing what everything is going on. And this is why we avoid all games that have limited communication, but we didn't know that when we got it.
Right.
Also, it's just really got a short table life. You're going to play this a few times. It feels very like those escape rooms. You play it a few times and you figured out the puzzle. You solved it.
Yep.
And you're done.
Yeah, now that might not be a bad thing for some people. That's kind of one of the things where, for us, I think we avoid those.
I mean, there's a few that we've played, but I think we've picked them up because we know exactly who we're going to pass it on to.
Right.
Otherwise, we don't generally buy what we call the disposable board games, where you play it once and then you dispose of it, which, I know most people will try to find someone to pass it on to rather than literally throwing it in the trash or recycling it. But we generally don't play most of those.
Yeah.
But let's move on to who we think this would be good for. And we think it would be good for some 2 players. That are couples that want that escape room type experience.
Or have a lot of friends that know who they're going to then pass it on to.
But honestly, we do think the solo game would have a longer table life.
Yeah.
Because the puzzle, I think, would take a little longer to figure out and or just be more interesting to replay. Like playing solitaire. Solitaire doesn't ever change. Well, yes, there's variants, but playing straight solitaire, same thing over and over again. This might have more legs that way.
Yes.
Okay. Our ratings.
So for our ratings, we each have 1d6 worth of ratings to give. 1 is low, 6 is high. We give it our number, reason why, add them together, and see what it rolled for us. Sarah, what did Smitten roll for you?
It rolled a 1. Other than the puzzle was very interesting, and I felt that a lot of game design went into, like Will said, the abilities and getting them balanced, and that was really fascinating. The rest of the package I didn't care much for. I don't like the limited communication. I really didn't like the graphic design and how hard it made Will work at being able to play the game. It just wasn't at all for me.
For me, I give it a 3.
Okay.
I really like the challenge, and when it comes to a puzzle game, I know I'm going to be challenged. So taking in the challenge that I had to overcome didn't really bother me because it was something I was expecting. And it also does a lot of clever things in such a small package. Well, what it really hits it for me is the fact that I'm not sure why I'm supposed to. Why is it called Smitten? What's going on?
The theme. There was no theme.
Yeah, there was no theme.
It's very pretty art.
Also, the fact that it feels very disposable. Mm-hmm. We played it twice. We succeeded the second time. And I turned to Sarah and I'm done with that.
Yeah.
I don't really need to play this anymore.
Yeah, we solved it.
Yeah. And there's been other games that I've had disposable instances where I felt I got a very rich story, and then what I take away from it is that story. This, since there's no theme and the challenge was overcome, I'm a bit of at a loss as to what to walk away with.
Gotcha.
After playing it. Now, I did have a good time figuring out the puzzle, but I like puzzles.
Yeah.
So
Will likes puzzles.
which is probably
Not so much.
reflected in why I give it a 3 and not a 1.
Yep.
But yeah, it does have very limited things. Just know that going into it. It's very disposable. This might be something you pick up because, oh, we're going on vacation. We have very limited space. But I do want to get a game in that's not going to be very demanding,
Yes.
but still going to be challenging. This could probably fit that bill.
Agreed.
Yeah, but honestly, like Sarah said, solo players are probably going to get the most out of Smitten.
Agreed.
All right, so
right.
together 4 out of 12. I'm glad we got this for free.
I am glad we got this for free too. And I do really, truly hope more people will enjoy it. And I am looking forward to figuring out who to move this on to hopefully get it into hands that will enjoy it more than us.
All right. Anything else we need to cover?
Nope, that's everything.
All right. So my question for you, Sarah, is if you had to choose a different picture for a game like Smitten, what would it be?
Oh, I don't know. Probably one of the artists that I really like Josephine Wall. I love her fantasy artwork. I would love to put a puzzle game together and see her artwork
At the end of it as a reward.
As a reward. I definitely would. What about you?
For me, I would probably, I honestly don't know because I don't actually look at the art.
That is a very good point.
I would have it blank.
That would be not very fun.
No, it would be terrible, and that's why I don't design.
On the other hand, if it was blank, you would be able to see the number in the grid in the upper left-hand corner.
That is true.
So maybe that's very smart graphic.
Or I'd put in a new riddle that you then have to solve, and then it leaves you down a rabbit hole.
That would be fascinating. Finishing this puzzle would lead you to another one.
Yeah, this is just the start of whatever the bigger augmented game is.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
That's what I go with. All right, and that will do it for us. And we've been Rolling with Reviews. And remember, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach out to us on the various social media platforms at
Rolling with Two. That's TWO. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And on YouTube, please like and subscribe.
And if you have time, check out the other content Nanaman has found for you, because remember, he's rolling with you.